Good morning, Tony. It's nice to meet you again. How are you doing today?
Doing all right today. Thank you.
Okay, that's always good to hear. Okay, so I remember from last sessions you were using pronouns. And before we start the session, could I get your pronouns for this session?
He, him, his.
Okay, thank you. And my pronouns will be the same, he, him as well. So thank you for sharing that with me. And before we begin, so do you remember last session how we talked about confidentiality and being a mandated reporter and how it's my obligation to make sure there's safety throughout the session. And in case of those four exceptions I mentioned, that I'll just review them quickly. It's harm to oneself, harm to others, elder abuse, and child abuse. If that does take place, I would have to contact my supervisor, or and to just to make sure each party or whoever's involved is safe at all times. Do you remember going over that?
Yeah, I remember going over that.
Okay. And then confidentiality, I'll just go over that briefly as well. So we're up to speed, and essentially everything you say will stay between us unless those four exceptions I just mentioned um, arise during our session. Okay. So when we last talked, you said you were, uh, please remind me and refresh me. It's been a while. You said you were engaging in self-harm. Was that correct?
So I made 2 suicide attempts by taking more of my prescribed medications.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that refresher. So the last thing I want to mention as is I want this to be a safe space for you. So at any time during the session, you feel that it's unsafe for you or you do not want to answer any of the questions I am asking, then feel free to notify me and we can stop the session. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So for this session, we will just be doing a quick assessment. I'm just going to learn a little bit more about you. It'll be covering topics around family, self-care, how you take care of yourself. It can cover pretty much a wide range of topics. It can be in employment, finances, and like I said, if you ever feel uncomfortable, you don't want to answer a question, feel free to do so, and we will move on. Okay.
Okay.
So from the last session, I believe you said you were 26 years old and identified as biracial.
Yeah.
Okay. And for the purpose of this assessment, so I noticed you use certain pronouns. How do you identify in terms of sexual orientation?
Sexual orientation. Um, as a female.
Okay. Okay, thank you for sharing. And would that be heterosexual, non-binary?
Oh, okay. I guess I didn't understand the question. It's uh, heterosexual.
Heterosexual. Okay. Okay. Thank you for clarifying. Yes, I also got confused. I apologize for that.
It's okay.
Okay. So the next topic will be in terms of employment and basically what you do in your free time. So, are you going to school at all?
I've had a number of like change of interest, a number of them, and I had some decent jobs right now. Uh, I've been acting out, uh, yeah, and so I'm not going to school or working.
Okay. So would you say when you act out, that affects your performance at work and at school?
Yeah, it does. It's really hard to
Okay.
do those things when I act out.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. And so you say you're not working or going to school. Can you elaborate a little bit what you do in your free time?
On my free time, I spend a lot of time like in this like relationship that I've been in for the last 4 months. So that's I just try to get in like contact with my significant other, and um, we hang out sometimes. Sometimes we don't. But really, that's all I've been thinking about. Other than that, I sometimes engage with sexual activity outside of that relationship. Um, yeah, I'm just kind of going with life right now.
Okay, so can you elaborate a little more about your relationship? And you also say you engage with relationships outside of your current relationship as well.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just that you asked me to elaborate and go more into why I have sex outside of the relationship, or
Oh no, it's what I meant is can you elaborate a little more about your current relationship?
I mean, we hang out. We don't do much. There's not a lot there. I mean, I'm into the person, but I don't know where it's gonna go. Yeah, there's not a lot to it, really.
Okay. And can you describe any other significant relationships? How about within your family? How do you all get along?
We get along pretty good. Yeah.
And within your household, or within your family as well, um, how many uh, siblings do you have? Like, what is the composition of your household?
Um. So I live alone with like my dog. Yeah. Right now, I'm not living with any family.
Okay. So, so do you have a good, how long, or how do I phrase this? Do you have like a strong connection, or do you contact your family a lot since you live alone, or is it?
Yeah, I do. I do, but not as much as my significant other.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you for sharing. So your significant other would takes up majority of your time, and that's where you focus a majority of your time.
At least for these last 4 months. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. So you said that was for the past 4 months. You were with your significant other.
Yeah. Sometimes I act out because like she threatens that she'll leave me, and then I do that so that she comes back. Um,
Okay,
yeah, so we can start dating again.
okay. And before this relationship, how was the your past relationship before this current one?
It was calm. It was pretty relaxed, pretty respectful. Um, it wasn't as intense.
Okay. May I ask how that relationship ended?
Me acting out. Um, yeah, just not really being able to control my character.
Okay, so when you act out, that affects more than just in terms of your education and employment. It also kind of interferes with your relationships as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for sharing that with me. And okay, so I remember you said you were living alone. Are you able to support yourself financially? Do you have enough food every day?
Yeah, I do. I do right now. I get help from my family. They send me money. Yeah.
Okay. So there's no complication. There's no you're not food insecure or in need of money.
No. I just that's kind of like why I like to change interest, because I have the comfort to do so, um, and at the same time I can't seem to stay at one place because well, I'm different from one day to the next, and the inconsistencies make keeping the job hard.
Okay, I understand, and thank you for confiding with me to share that. So you were saying you were just talking about your your parents were supporting you. Is there anyone else who supports you?
No,
Okay. Do you happen to go to church at all? Do you go congregate with them and they support you in any way?
no, I'm not a part of any religious sect or anything like that. I probably should be though.
So yeah, you could definitely look into religion. That's always a great support system. Many people confide into churches for spiritual and sort of religious support. And usually it's like a tight knit community, and people always help one another. Um, but that's definitely a good option to look into if you're interested in joining a religion.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Okay. So for the next part of the assessment, we'll go into so the I guess we're gonna go into like how the main reason you came into seeking therapy. I think remember from last session you said you weren't. I believe you said you weren't really referred. You just I guess wanted to come in. Was that correct?
So I've had numerous therapists in the past, and I wear them out. So that's why I came to you. I needed a new therapist.
Oh, okay. So would you say the reason for you to seek therapy is because you need to change new therapists and it wasn't um, that you wanted to receive treatment?
Well, I don't know who I really am, like who I really am. Yeah, that's why I seek therapy. I'm seeking to find out who I really am.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that with me. So in your own words, can you explain the main reason you're seeking therapy? I know you just said that I'm trying to figure out who you were. Was there any other problematic things that are affecting you as of right
Possibly the sexual activity, excuse me, with multiple people per week. Possibly. I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about that. I don't think that's wrong or right. I just do that. So that could possibly be why. Another reason among me just not knowing who I am being the most like important reason. But under that, sure, we can say that my sexual activity, I kind of want to explore that and why I'm seeking that much sex throughout my week,
now? Okay. So
especially with different partners. Yeah, that part is important, especially with different partners. It makes me think like I can't stay with the same person.
okay. So thank you for sharing with that. I know it's very difficult and kind of confusing to figure out why you're here and sometimes why you do certain things. So I appreciate you telling me that. So also, you also said that you had two suicide attempts. Can you elaborate when the first one took place?
Um, I have a long history of self-harm. Um, it's not something I'm proud of. And then kind of like when I was a teenager, that's when it started. Yeah, not kind of. When I was a teenager, that's when it started. And my suicide attempts, yeah, I've had two. So, I don't really like to talk about those too much.
Okay. So I'll try not to touch too much just for the assessment. I sometimes will have to go into those questions, but if it's a little too much for you to handle at the moment, we get to pass. And then once you're more comfortable, have a little more confidence, you feel more comfortable, we can definitely touch on those topics.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. You're very welcome. Okay. So aside from those two events, how did that affect your life? Sure. In terms of your functioning, would you say most of your, let's say, it started affecting you after those events?
No, I think something was wrong before those events happened.
Okay, and how about currently? Is it still affecting you?
Is what's still affecting me.
Essentially, those two past events. Is it
Um,
still?
the events, I mean, they happen. I don't know exactly what you mean. They happen. It's just something I don't like to talk about every day. I mean, but I'm able to talk about it. And then, like, do they still affect me? Yeah, in some ways they do.
Okay. So yeah, I was just trying to ask basically, compared to the past and how you're currently feeling, you're how basically you're coping with it and how um if it's like affecting you like the everyday, the little things in your everyday life.
Like I said, I think something was wrong before those events, but with those events, um, they affect my everyday life on and off. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's kind of present and at the same time it's sort of in the background as well, sort of getting from your response. So when you have or when these events are affecting you, how do you handle the situation and how do you cope with it?
Cope. The events are affecting me. Um, I don't know. I guess with the sex. Yeah, yeah. I find pleasure in that. I find like at least some type of excitement.
Okay, so thank you for sharing. Do you ever reach out to your parents for like advice or
No,
just
no, I'm too embarrassed.
too embarrassing? Okay, so you're saying you use sex as a coping mechanism, and so for that, when you know, can you describe any of the sort of the symptoms, or you know that it's affecting you, or you know it's present?
It's the symptoms of when I feel that those two events of suicide like come into my life now.
Sort of like what are like the indicators that you know that those your thoughts are about to be taken over by those events, or that those events are going to start affecting your like you presently?
Again, it's just my character changes. Um, like who I am changes, and that's why I feel like I don't know who I am. Yeah, it's so like I guess the symptoms would be me. I start to think about um, like my purpose and my role in my own life, and I start to think about um, the relationships I had, and then from that it goes into how I was, in my early 20s, and then I start thinking about my teenage years, and then I start thinking about those two suicide attempts, and then I started thinking about why I was even cutting myself before the suicide attempts. And then I changed my, like, the way I, the way I am at the time. And, I do something that I think would benefit me. And it just happens that, at this moment in time, I have sex with multiple people per week. And sometimes people I don't know.
Okay. So going back to what you told me, and I appreciate you confiding me to share that. You said you some of your past events you use medication for a suicide attempt.
Yeah.
What, can you tell me why those were prescribed to you, the medication?
The medications were prescribed for me to, I was young. I don't know. I think that they said like I wasn't able to I think it was cope and or concentrate, excuse me, in like elementary school and like focus and yeah, it was just to kind of keep me to stay the same, like my character, yeah, and the way I acted out.
And since you were using medication, this actually comes pretty common. Were you also using any illegal substances or any alcohol?
No,
So when you were using the medication, did that lead to any hospitalizations?
yeah, the 2 suicide attempts came from prescribed medication overdoses.
Okay. And can you elaborate a little bit on that? What was the outcome about your two suicide attempts?
The outcome?
Yes, would you put on any restrictions, or did the hospital diagnose you with anything?
What were the outcomes of the 2 suicide attempts when I was a teenager? Uh, I don't really. I mean, I can't really think about. I mean, I got out of the hospital. That was the outcome. Um, I wasn't prescribed any medicines because I was already like taking them incorrectly. Um, the outcome was I had to go to therapy.
Okay, yeah. No, I was just seeing if there's any past medical um, history, if they diagnosed you with any, either they put you on a hold. Sometimes when there's past suicide attempt, it's very common for people to put on involuntary hold for the safety of the patient or the client. Um, so I was just wondering if you had any, if you could remember any of your medical history, but it's perfectly fine. We can cover that at a later topic or a later time. So those are all my questions I have today. And for next session, we will, if you have any questions, or before we end, do you have any questions for me?
Um, so what is the assessment like? What do we do with this?
So for the assessment, essentially, I just take all the information I gathered and I'll consult with other clinicians, and we'll examine the information, and usually we'll see how we as medical staff can best help you and support you and help you within therapy.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So for the next session, we will probably just review what I observed, and we'll go over some missing questions, and so we can just review the information that we shared today.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.